Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Bing Henderson, and I'm here today to talk to you about toxicity in our bodies. I'm sure there's been a time or two in your life when you thought, I really shouldn't be eating this. There is stuff wrong with this food. I don't think I should be putting this into my body. You've been faithful to buy at the produce section of the market, but do you really know what's in that food? You think, oh well, one time's not going to hurt me. I'm just going to go ahead and have this time, and I'll worry about it next time when I'm going to get a serving of X, Y, or Z, whether it be sugar or whether it be produce that's made on a farm in a remote part of the country or even remote part of the world. Today we have the ability to ship produce from far, far away. I remember eating grapes from Chile. So I do know also that the grapes from Chile are very likely not produced organically. What I want you to understand today is that the foods that we're getting in our food system, the produce, even the produce that seems to be so good, is very likely had pesticides and herbicides applied to it. And these herbicides and pesticides are toxic to our bodies. What do I mean by that? When we take anything into our bodies, we have to realize that we are what we eat. And not only are we what we eat, we are what we eat eats. So if we're eating plants, for example, let's just take plants without even considering meats. If we're taking in plant material that's been produced from in an unknown place, by an unknown farmer, what are we actually getting? Now, profits are the bottom line in most enterprises, whether it be a local farmer or whether it be a producer far across the oceans. Profits are the bottom line. So, what most producers want to do is to lower costs at all cost. So they're not really concerned too much about your health. They're more concerned about their bottom line. Same goes for food produced here in America. And let me tell you why I say that. Big industrial farming relies heavily on a well-known herbicide called glyphosate. Glyphosate is also known as Roundup. In fact, you may have used Roundup on your driveway or even in your own garden to keep weeds down. It's heavily touted in the big box stores when you go to into one of these places where you can get all your gardening supplies at one place. The problem is glyphosate is toxic. The EPA knows it's toxic. The producers know it's toxic, but they are able to manipulate the government in order to keep the toxicity from being reported. Every year, over 300 million pounds of glyphosate are applied to the soils, American soils, by farmers. It's banned in Europe, so why does it keep getting applied in America? Well, I told you that the EPA and big business are not letting the truth be told. Why is glyphosate harmful? Well, it's known as an endocrine disruptor, which means it alters the hormones in our bodies. So it's implicated in breast cancer and in birth defects, in the female reproductive system. It's also been implicated in autism and in Parkinson's disease. There are problems with it that are not being reported. A case in point also is my own experience. Not that I've developed a cancer or Parkinson's disease, but glyphosate is very damaging to the soils of American soils. About 8 years ago, we bought our farm, and one morning in the springtime, I went out to my farm, or in a backfield that had been industrially farmed, and I just watched the soil be washed away because there was no foliage, no grass on the ground that was keeping the soil from washing away. Glyphosate works as an herbicide, and farmers apply it to keep weeds down. They apply it at the beginning of the season so that the weeds don't come up. They apply it also during the growing season so weeds don't grow up. They're able to apply herbicides to their plants, to their crops, because these crops have been genetically modified to resist the Roundup that's applied to them. So it may be applied 2 or 3, even 4 times to keep weeds down without even harming the plants that have been genetically modified, that then gets put into our food supply in one way or another, often through the production of animal feeds. So when we eat foods that are produced, or meats that are produced in a feedlot, for example, we are probably getting corn and maybe soy that's been produced on farmers' fields, that has been produced in genetically modified plants on soils that have been treated with glyphosate. The glyphosate's harmful, and really, what do the genetically modified plants, what are they doing to us? Some people refer to the genetically modified seeds as frankenseeds, much like Frankenstein. We don't know the adverse effects that these seeds may be having upon our bodies because the chemicals and the genetic material is retained in the product, the end product itself. So what else does a glyphosate do? Glyphosate is also harmful to our livers. It interferes with major detoxification enzymes that our body badly needs in order to keep toxins from further damaging our bodies. There's also the problem with increasing amounts of Parkinsonism and autism. And these two diseases have been implicated as part of the glyphosate suppression of information going out. 1 kid in 50 develops autism. And premature death in areas where, due to Parkinsonism, or Parkinson's disease, is being reported from areas where there's high glyphosate use on the soils. Now, why does this happen? I said that glyphosate's applied to the soil. In the application of the soil, it kills much of the microbial life, if not all the microbial life, let's just say much of it, in the soil. The microbial life is very important to produce good, healthy crops. In the same way, microbial life in our own intestinal tract is very important for our own mental and physical well-being. Glyphosate is toxic to the human microbiome. It disrupts the microbial processes that positively enhance our ability to think and to carry on with good thought processes. One of the major producers of a chemical used in the body for good brain function is serotonin. And 80% of the serotonin produced in our bodies comes from the intestines. And the microbiome, the microbes living inside our intestinal tract, are very dependent upon a good, healthy life. And if they're killed off, their body cannot produce serotonin. The same with other neurotransmitters that are dependent upon the microbiome in our bodies that help good thought processes and good other processes as well, whether it be in our liver or our adrenal glands, There's some implication even now with whether glyphosate may be causing problems with people's hearts. So, where is glyphosate and where are not glyphosate, but where are genetically modified foods entering our food system? Well, our grains, the wheats, the corn, and the soy. One of the highest places that it's found is in breakfast cereals. What do we feed our children? One of their first finger foods is Cheerios. And Cheerios are one of the highest foods in glyphosate. Also, the glyphosate residues may show up in our meats, as I said, with respect to feedlot meats. Fish farms have genetically modified organisms living in them so that they'll grow faster. Also, apples and potatoes are being produced with genetically modified plants. The sugar we may be applying to our breakfast cereal, and the sugar, of course, is a toxin that is a whole different talk. And I'll talk about that in a future visit with you. But the sugar beets that are produced in America are often produced from genetically modified sugar beets. And all this genetic modification on plants is due to helping it grow faster and bigger because of weed suppression. And stop and think too about the effect or the way we're getting glyphosate and plant residues in foods that are we get in restaurants. Whether it be the breads or the salads or the meats, think about it. There's probably a pretty good chance that there's something along that line that you're getting, unless you're getting or going to an organic food store or an organic restaurant. Because there's lots and lots of things that are being brought into the restaurant and served to us that are part of the food chain that's had glyphosate and other toxins applied to it. Big business is really more concerned about their bottom line than they are about your personal health. What I want to do in this series is to help you understand why it's important to grow your own food, and if you can't do that, to know your farmer so that your farmer is aware that you're watching him produce the foods that you're eating. So the next time you sit down at the table or go to a restaurant, think about what you're actually eating. Where did the food that you're getting and you're going to be putting into your mouth, where did it come from? Did you grow it yourself, which is one of the best insurances of getting pure food? Or know your farmer. Your farmer is one of your best friends, or the food that you eat may be one of your worst enemies. You are what you eat, and you are what you eat eats. I'm Dr. Bing Henderson. It's been nice talking to you. We'll see you at another time. Bless you all.